that has put me into now chemically induced menopause. Not being dependent or being independent. Myself, Nidhi, you're a rock star. You've got this.
Namaskar and welcome to
This too shall pass.
Yes, if pain is inevitable, but your suffering is optional.
I believe that I'm in pain, but I'm not suffering. Talk show, log kya kahenge, hair stories.
About how it was for you, the induced menopause, and what
Call it my personal heat wave when it happens. I think it's my personal heat wave. I suddenly feel hot.
Namaskar and welcome to Audio Voices with Sangita. Our today's guest is someone who made a remarkable decision after hearing the words no one wants to hear. You have cancer. Instead of putting her life on hold, she continued living it fully in the midst of chemotherapies and induced menopause. She traveled and she even drove herself to chemotherapy sessions. Let's meet our today's warrior, Nidhi Pant, who likes to be known as a thriver. Nidhi has proved that healing is not only about medicine, it is about choosing joy, purpose, and above all, our mindset. Welcome to the podcast, Nidhi.
Hi, Sangita.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nidhi, take us back to that overseas trip that you had, where you realized that something is amiss, and what made you realize that?
So this was last year in September. This was 5 days after my 41st birthday. I was in Philippines at that time, and I was in the bathtub. I suddenly felt a lump, which didn't look very normal to me. It was well-rounded, almond-shaped. It was not moving. And this was after my periods. So, I used to get these fibroadenomas, which used to be these moving lumps. They used to go away after my periods. But this one was very hard. It was very different. And I somehow had a gut feeling that it's cancerous. I called up my parents. I told them to take appointments and, fixed everything for the same day, right? Like I reached, and the next day I was doing all my appointments.
Okay. And what was the prognosis? Like it was which stage? Can you just tell us that also?
Yeah, so it was stage 1, but my tumor grade was very high. It was a grade 3, and it was localized. It was grade 3, and my Ki-67 was very high. So apparently the tumor was growing very quickly. Everything was very quick. If I go by dates, it was 30th September last year. I had my ultrasound, my mammogram. I met the surgeon the same day. I had my true cut biopsy, the FNAC the next day, the PET scan and all of the CT scans and all of the tests in the next 1 week. And then October 13th, I was operated on. I had my surgery.
So surgery was first, and then you had your chemo and radiation. So how many chemos did you have to go through?
I had 6 cycles.
So you choose to call your chemotherapies cleansing cycles. Yeah, that's such a beautiful words for chemotherapy cleansing cycles. So where did that idea come from?
Basically, the cleansing cycles, to be honest, I don't remember how it came about. I think it just struck me. So after the surgery, right, the surgeon was like, oh, and on the report it's written NED, no evidence of disease. So practically, when I asked him, I said, am I cancer free? He's like, yes, you're cancer free. So I said, then if I'm cancer free, why do I want to feel sick or feel like, all those things attached to chemotherapy? They're so scary, right? And we're all scared of that word. So I just wanted to give something more positive and uplifting in terms of, what it was. And I said, it's just cleansing my body of any remaining cancer cells. So I called it cleansing throughout, and it made me feel good. So
You were telling me that you used to drive yourself that chemotherapy sessions. Why was that important to you that you drive yourself and?
I've been driving since the age of 18. I have been quite independent in terms of driving, and I've been driving everybody in the house around, right? Like my parents, my husband. It's something which comes very normally to me, naturally to me. And for me, it gave me a sense of not being dependent or being independent. It made me feel more normal, you know. So for me, it was important that I feel as normal as I did before. So that was one way. And the other is also that it made me not overthink. You know, I've been an overthinker. So when you're actively driving or, you know, you're in action mode, it you stop thinking. You know, when you're driving, you have to have all your attention on the road. So I think it helped me. So, you know, everywhere, my scan appointments, my doctor appointments, my radiations, right? Throughout the 20 days of radiation, everywhere I said I want to drive. Apart from those two times when my dad drove me, one was, you know, the surgery after the surgery, and one was after the chemo port insertion and the first chemotherapy. So it was important to me. It made me feel normal.
And it's very important actually to get that sense of normalcy because you're going through so much at that time. So it's very important. So that is really wonderful actually that you were able to do that and you did that. It's commendable and it's inspiring also. I'm sure people listening to this podcast will, understand how important it is to, lead a very
True.
normal, to be as normal as you can, not get into I'm
Correct.
so sick mode. That's very
Correct.
important,
Correct.
actually. But you went even one step further. This last 1 year since your diagnosis, your treatment, and everything, you've been traveling so much. You attended weddings. You chose to swim. You chose, whatnot. So, what gave you that confidence and that willpower to do so much while going through your treatment?
So I love travel. I like doing different things. I like exploring. You know, I think the first step I would say was, you know, after the first chemo, it was the first thing that happened was it was my baby cousin's wedding. It was in Kolkata. And I was in two minds because, you know, I knew I was going to lose my hair. This was going to be after my second chemo. And you know, obviously the risks of getting an infection, you know, your immune system goes down. So the first thing I did was I went to my medical oncologist. I asked him, I said, you know, this wedding is coming up, can I travel for it? So he said, it's a wedding. My concern with a wedding, especially Indian wedding, is the number of people. He's like, if you're meeting multiple people, wear a mask, take precautions, eat healthy food. And he'd looked at my blood reports. The blood reports, luckily, Sangita, were good for me. You know, they were. I mean, obviously, my WBCs were going down, but he had given me a heads up to even have salads at home. You know, a lot of times they say don't have raw foods, but he told me you're doing fine till the time you're having home cooked or raw salads done at home. It's okay. So it gave me that confidence to go for the wedding basis his go ahead, obviously.
Mm.
And then I think at the wedding, you know, I did a dance performance with my husband. I hadn't told people that I had a cancer diagnosis, that, you know, I was undergoing treatment. So none of my relatives even knew, barring very select few ones.
Mm.
And nobody got to know. I was wearing a wig. So nobody got to know that I was ill or going through any treatment, right? It gave me a lot of confidence and it also made me feel normal.
Mm.
That, and then, you know, then came a Goa trip, then, you know, another Goa trip, a road trip to
Mm.
Jaipur, you
Mm.
know, and so on, and Thailand. So but obviously looking at my body. So
But what about the food? Because you're supposed to have home cooked food, you're supposed to have boiled water, and you're supposed to have salads which are really, hygienically done and all that. I mean, cooked, whatever cooking is also done. So, how did you manage on the food part while you were traveling so much?
So to be honest, I did eat out. Obviously, I didn't go and have food at a dhaba, but I did go out to. So cousin's wedding was easy in the way that, you know, we just told them, you know, fresh food and but again, it's still hotel food, right?
Mm.
So luckily, no infections, nothing happened. It gave me more confidence. But when I traveled, I think did keep safety in mind, but maybe God's grace also, right? I didn't really have any infections, or any problems per se. So I think maybe I was lucky as well, uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I know a lot of people have major issues.
Yeah, yeah. Nausea also is a part of that, no? So, uh, you were lucky that you could travel. There was no nausea. And did you have nausea?
So they give you pre-medication. Nowadays they give you pre-medication, very good pre-medication in the hospitals when they give you your chemotherapy therapy infusion, right? Before that, these pre-medications are quite good. And then they give you some medicines to also manage those side effects. So for me, I think barring the first 2 days, I didn't really need it. But I do remember traveling to Goa and popping one of those Temetal or, Domstals just to ensure that I don't have it.
Must have been days when you have struggled emotionally, or was it always positive, positive? There must have been some days, right? Because cancer is a
There
disease
are,
which takes a toll on you. So,
uh, I think the days right after chemotherapy hit you very, very hard. And I think there's no denying that. And then there are low days as well. So, with the chemotherapy, it also was an induced menopause for me. So, the chemotherapy, so your periods stop during the time you're having chemotherapy, which leads to a lot of I don't know if the right word is mood swings, but it does lead to a lot of mood up and downs, especially with the treatment. So I think all of that, yes, I would not, I mean, I would have to say that yes, there were bad days as well.
so what helped you during those emotional low days, when you were not feeling really up to it emotionally? What were the things that you held on to?
So I think one thing, Sangeeta, is very important is self-talk. I would, I realized that as much as my family, my husband, my parents are supportive, right? And they're there, how you talk to yourself makes a lot of difference. So I would tell myself, Nidhi, you're a rock star. You've got this. That's one thing that I actually did.
I can see
I
that you are
would,
a rock star.
yeah, I would look in the mirror and say, you've got this, and even if I was feeling low, I had to tell myself with no hair or anything also, I did that. The one of the other things that has stayed with me, I've done the Vipassana, the 10-day silent meditation retreat in 2024. And, there's this word called anich, which
Hmm.
has stayed with me. It means impermanence.
Hmm.
So, that nothing is permanent,
Nothing is
whether
that.
it's a good positive thing or whether it's a bad or a painful thing.
Correct.
So I told myself, an itch. And I've told my husband
Yeah.
that. So he would also. So I said, this too shall pass.
Yes.
It's not
This too
permanent.
shall pass. Very true.
It's also a demarcation between pain and suffering. Some people would tell me, oh, she's suffering, and I said, no, I'm not suffering.
Hmm.
Because suffering, I feel, is self created.
Hmm.
Pain is real. So I
Hmm.
wanted to really believe that I'm in pain, but I'm
Hmm.
not suffering.
Hmm.
So I think that was another thing that sort of helped. I think at that time I was doing these healing sessions with, a homeopathic doctor. This lady, she had done it for a mother, and I took up some sessions with her. In that we were practicing gratitude, uh, positive affirmations, and
Hmm.
she would share some recordings which had very soothing music, and these positive affirmations that my body is healing. They were not healing like a Reiki healing or any pranic healing. They were just normal
Affirmation.
sessions.
Yeah. That is very
And I
important,
would,
actually. That is very important. Your attitude towards it, and like what you said, like affirmations and positive thinking, it holds a very important place in your healing. And I hope more people realize this through this podcast and through this interview. And I hope more people understand this and how important it is. One more thing I really liked what you say is that suffering is optional. If pain is inevitable, but your suffering is optional. It depends on
Absolutely.
you whether how much you want to suffer. So that is a very wonderful takeaway, actually. And you were talking about, induced menopause. It is something which is not really spoken about much. So can you please share with us more about how it was for you, the induced menopause, and what effects did it have on you, and how did you deal with it?
So, firstly, they put me into menopause by the chemotherapy. So, throughout, since, last year, November, post November, I was in menopause through the chemotherapy. After that, so what happens is that in my case, the cancer was hormone positive, which is estrogen and progesterone was highly hormone positive. So one of the ways that they can, sort of prevent it from a recurrence is to suppress your hormone levels. So for women who've not hit menopause, they tell you that, we'll give you these injections. So I get these injections every 28 days, which is for ovarian suppression.
Hmm.
So that has put me into now chemically induced menopause.
Hmm. Hmm.
So the side effects of chemically induced menopause, one is that because it's chemically induced, it's not natural.
Hmm.
The body, it's a shock to the body, right?
Correct.
So I think there's another one set of trauma that's happening to the body. The other is, the specific side effects which come with menopause, right?
Hmm.
Which is hot flashes. So I tried to make that funny for myself. I call it my personal heat wave when it happens. I say it's my personal heat wave. I suddenly feel hot. Uh, so, there are hot flashes, there are night sweats. So, when you're sleeping at night, you'll suddenly forget about feeling hot. Your whole back is drenched in sweat, and you
Hmm.
wake up. Fatigue, uh, muscle pains, cramps, leg pains, uh, all of these, then bone loss. All of
Hmm.
these are, side effects of the menopause and mood
Hmm.
swings. So suddenly you feel very angry also,
Hmm.
which unfortunately only your, people
Those
at
near and
home
dear ones,
get to face.
yes, they have to face that. Which of these two is, you think is easier to deal with, chemotherapy or these hormonal therapies that they give you?
That's a very difficult question. Chemotherapy, I think, is tough. There is no denying, but I think it's something that will get over with. Hormone therapy, I'm going to be on for the next 10 years at least.
Oh my God. Really?
So, yeah. And, sometimes they extend for like the tablet for even longer.
Okay.
So they initially tell you 5, 10 years and then keep extending it. Uh, so I think it is very, rather than saying it's tough, I think it's a new normal.
Mm.
So we need to get used to the medicine. So for me, it's quite new because I started in
Mm.
May and we're just in July. And I had to change medicines because I got my periods once when I was traveling to China. So, I had to go back on tamoxifen, then my doctor changed it back. So I had that to and fro. So I think my body is still getting used to it. Uh, so I feel that it'll get better. I'm hoping.
Mm.
So it'll get better. But movement helps, I think.
Movement helps, and any other precautions you're supposed to take in terms of maybe your diet or what you're eating, or what is it that you need to do to take care that you're because you're going through so much. I mean, chemotherapy bhi ho gaya, and now
Hmm.
this is another treatment that you're going through. So, have they advised you anything? Is there anything that you do to help
Hmm.
you through this in terms of your
So
diet
they
and all?
not really the diet, not so much. They're giving me calcium tablets twice a day. That's because bone density loss is bound to happen.
Hmm.
Then, they do a DEXA scan before so that to see if there is bone loss or to know what's the baseline, you know, because there is bone density loss that happens with menopause, which is expected here. So that is another thing. So my medical onco keeps saying more movement. He says, strength training, resistance training is what you should do. So that is supposed to really help, because, as you would know, that, with age as well, they say that do strength training because there'll be
Mm,
muscle loss, there'll be bone loss. So
mm,
that's something that they say that do. Nothing
mm.
specifically for the diet, though.
Okay. Okay. Actually, cancer treatment is very personalized only. For everybody, it's little
Absolutely.
different, no? Recently, Nidhi, you were part of some comedy group or some stage performance or some performance you all did. So tell us more about that.
So 11 of us, breast cancer and another cancer, ex-cancer patients, and one man who's a colon cancer ex-patient got together. This was our attempt to normalize cancer. So basically, there were things like talk show, log kya kahenge, hair stories. Then there was a skit which was, a comic take on, the treatment of a lady called Manu Panjaban. I played Duke, the wellness coach. And, it was, and we also did a rap song called Sab Kuch Changa Hai Ji, So it was a fun thing, to basically normalize cancer in a way to say that it's okay. Treat us like normal people. Don't treat us like, we're on our death sentence.
Hmm.
So, and we wanted to add humor, make things lighter. It's not easy.
It is very important actually because you see the lighter side of something. It's very easy to deal with what is something so serious as cancer. It works like a medicine, isn't it? Yeah,
Absolutely.
humor also
Absolutely.
works like a medicine. How did this whole experience going through this cancer, this diagnosis, change your outlook towards life? In what way do you feel it has changed you, the way you look at life?
I think a few things. It made me realize life is very fragile, we take it for granted a lot of times. For me, I couldn't have thought this would happen to me types, right? And it did. So it made me realize on how fragile life is. Uh, it also made me realize kindness in this world is underrated, you know. So we need to be kinder to ourselves, to other people. So practice kindness in a bigger way is what it has made me realize. It made me appreciate the smaller, finer things in life,
Very true.
I have, I have been, I've been in the corporate world for very long. I chose to leave it by choice 2 years back, not because of cancer, right? Before that, it made me realize that's a life I don't want to go back to. That's one thing, For me, it's not a goal in life.
Mm,
What it made me also enjoy the finer things in life, like just having a nice cup of coffee,
mm,
just being out enjoying the sea breeze, just looking at flowers, the butterflies, these things I never appreciated because I was always running.
mm,
So it made me slow down. It made me pause. It's and Sangeeta, it's still a process. I'm still learning because my
mm.
natural instinct is to do everything fast. But I'm, learning to slow down, breathe, and say, Nidhi, enjoy it.
Definitely. What message would you like to give someone who has just heard these words? You have cancer.
I think I would like to tell them it's not the end of the road. It's just a bump, a speed breaker on the road. I would tell them slow down, listen to your body, prioritize yourself, count your blessings, tell yourself you've got this, you know.
Mm,
Uh, I would say practice gratitude, positive
mm,
affirmations.
mm,
It's important to talk to people whenever you feel right, because when you realize there are other people going through something similar, you know, uh, I've realized the women who are going through something similar, were the ones who became my friends in this journey because other people couldn't understand, what I'm going through. Even my friends from so many years couldn't. And I chose not to share it because their life was so different from mine that they couldn't have related. But somebody who's going through that journey, they understand your aches, your pains when you tell them, this is happening, that is happening. So I feel, women or anybody, right, going through cancer, they should at some point be in a support group or talk to people with whom they can share about their journey, feel more normal that it's okay.
Oh, you were just saying that they need to talk, but when people are going through treatment, sometimes they don't want to talk about it. Did you also experience something similar?
So, Sangeeta, I chose not to share about my journey. I was very, very private about it. I could count on my fingers the number of people who knew about it, including my neighbors and all. Nobody knew. People were trying to ask others and all of that. But for me, I chose privacy. And I think it really worked for me. We're in a society where people like to know what's happening in the other's life and then give advices. ये खा लो, ABC juice पी लो, ये कर लो, उसको हुआ है. No two cancers are similar. Then it's not okay to tell people what to do. There are things which could be hurtful, but you're saying it, but you don't realize that it could hurt somebody. So for me, I chose to be very private about it and escaped any of those things.
So, at what point, Nidhi, you decided to, talk about your journey? What made you take that decision?
So for me, I think once I completed my treatment, it was always in my mind that I wanted to talk about it because it was not a taboo for me. That was not the reason that I chose privacy. Uh, for me, I wanted to create awareness and I still want to create awareness, right? Through on this podcast with you, with Indian Cancer Society. I want to engage in uh, it's a cause which was dear to me because my dad's a colorectal cancer thriver.
Okay.
And he's 13 years in remission. It was always dear as a
That's
caregiver,
awesome.
but I think now that it's hit me directly, it's even it's a bigger purpose, I feel, for me, right? I want to pick this as my purpose, and I want uh, to be a breast cancer awareness, or cancer awareness advocate. I feel that it's very important for people to go for test, and I think early diagnosis will save lives.
Mm.
uh, at this point we can see the cancer numbers are rising very, very
Tremendously.
fast.
Tremendously.
Don't ignore anything in your body which is not normal. Don't believe in myths like a biopsy can spread cancer. No, it doesn't. I don't want to sit back and say I didn't do my part.
So I'm really happy that now you have decided to become a advocate, a cancer awareness advocate, and talk about this because we need people like you to come forward and talk about it because some people still are of that mindset that it is a stigma. Having cancer is something that is to be hidden and not spoken about, whereas it is not. It is something that you should talk about and spread awareness and help spread awareness. So it's awesome that you have decided to now share your journey. Thank you so much, Nidhi,
Thank you.
for your time and sharing your journey with us. It is really very important that people like you come forward and speak about your journey and how positively you have taken your journey through this whole experience of yours. So, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Our today's conversation has shown us that healing is not only about medicine, it is about how we face our situation. Cancer need not change our plans, it need not change who we are. And healing can happen with a lot of laughter, positivity, if we allow it to happen. If today's episode has inspired you in any way, do not forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who may need this. Until next time, good luck, goodbye, God bless.